I've been in the corporate space for 11 years as a senior project manager. I got to a point in my career where I realized that this wasn't for me. I ultimately had a big decision to make. I jumped. Recently announced on my channel that I was doing so. I've since then found a client, I've set up my own property consultancy, and I'm finally beginning to build something that's actually mine. Today, I want to bring you along this journey, how I found the client, what I've been up to, and what this means for my future. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kelvin. I live life chasing growth, adventure, as well as new opportunities. I created this channel as a video diary to document my passion for property and all that I get up to. But I also want to bring you behind the scenes to understand different areas and aspects of my life. As you stick with me on this journey, I hope that you'll find inspiration to follow your dreams and live a life that really excites you. Okay, so let me give you some context. Over the years, I've climbed the ranks in various positions, went from a chartered building surveyor to becoming a senior project manager. It was very good money, but what I didn't have was time freedom. I knew from very early in my career that I wanted control over my life, time, and money, but I wouldn't be able to do that whilst having a 9-to-5. Last year, you may have seen that I documented my HMO project in Manchester, and from start to finish, that was such a rewarding experience. It helped me reaffirm that I found my passion, which is property, and I found something I can do for the rest of my life. Earlier this year, I was invited on a podcast and we discussed a number of things from my story, my corporate career, and my aspirations for property in the future. And it was after this podcast that it really hit me that there's so much more to my story than my corporate career that I'm not sharing and that I'm not actually delving deep. And that's when it hit me. My journey is not about bricks and mortar and chasing a corporate career. It's about freedom, resilience, and creating opportunities both inside and outside the property investing space. I've ultimately been keeping all of this stuff to myself. And that's what I want to start sharing with you guys. That's what I want to change starting now. So I officially left my corporate job. I've done this interview and I'm now in a new space where I need to figure it out. But months later, after leaving my job, I secured my first client. How this actually happened was crazy because I first got in contact with this individual from Facebook and them seeing my content. 12 months later is when they actually decided that they wanted to work with me. Why this is very important is because I unknowingly was building the touch points of know, like, and trust. We had initial introductory phone calls to understand a bit about myself. I understood a bit about him. I understood his frustrations and I was giving him free advice throughout the journey. Now, this person could not have messaged me at a better time because 12 months later is when we officially agreed to work together. And for me, this is such a turning point. I'll be honest, I am at the moment earning way less money than I was as a senior project manager. However, in order to do this, I've heavily reviewed my finances to understand where can I cut costs to keep my living expenses as low as possible. The biggest of these changes was swapping my Audi Q2 car for a 2005 plate Vauxhall Astra. Now, I'm not someone that's into cars, but I definitely appreciate driving a nice car. And the difference is my monthly payments on the Audi were around £400 and I bought the Astra for £600 outright. It's not the nicest car, but I'm in a position in life where I'm living humbly so I have space and time to build. One thing I need to remember is that this is just a chapter in my story. If I make the sacrifices now and put the work in, I possibly will never have to go to corporate. I can live life on my terms. And honestly, that was something I was always ready to do. On reflection, what I've gained now is far more valuable. I've got time freedom, I'm building my own business, and I'm ultimately laying the foundations for a future life that I really want. So now I've got this client, it probably makes sense for me to explain why my client needed me and what offer was I able to bring. So my client has a portfolio primarily in London, although originally from London himself, he now moved to Malaysia where he works as a corporate person. Unfortunately, the portfolio of properties that he owns was handed over to poor performing agents who didn't do the best in looking after the properties. So when COVID hit, it meant that some properties were not occupied, that affected the money, and ultimately the whole thing fell down. This meant his tenants weren't getting the right experience and there was a need for some sort of divine intervention. The crazy thing is, whilst all this was happening, he was still having to pay the mortgage on each property and it was costing him a lot of money. This is where I ultimately came in. I was bringing years of transferable skills to provide a service. From my corporate career, I was used to managing loads of stakeholders, which meant I could look after agents, tenants, my client, contractors, and anything in between. Perfect for a situation like this. I used to manage and oversee construction budgets of millions of pounds, so I was very capable of managing the projects that he had to make sure everything stayed on time and on budget. Again, for my corporate career, I understand compliance, risk, and management, so I was the best person to make sure his entire property stayed compliant and ready to be let out to tenants. And most importantly, I know how to communicate clearly and build trust, which was so important after he had been let down for so many years. So in short, I wasn't just another property manager, I was someone that could bring structure, systems, and accountability to his entire portfolio. From our series of conversations, I ultimately presented 2 services to him where I'll be able to help. The first, obviously, being a project management service. This is where I oversee the refurbishment of all his properties from start to finish. And this very conveniently comes into my second service, which is more a portfolio management. In this role, I'll basically do everything an estate agent will do. Now, whilst I've secured my first client and this was amazing, there is such a bigger plan than what is at stake at the minute. Whilst I prove my worth to my existing client and help him convert and turn his entire portfolio around, I want to help more landlords who feel stuck because of poor management. I want to improve the experience for the customers, i.e. the tenants, because ultimately they're the ones living in these homes and therefore need to have a good living experience. Not forgetting that I want to continue also investing in my own property portfolio. I want to be someone that's able to live life in the moment and live life specifically on my terms and how I want to do it. I don't want to be the person that has to fight my boss for 25 days annual leave across the year and get paid only 12 times in a year. Because personally, that's just not a life that I want to live. I love travel. I love doing things with friends. And my motto, and everyone knows, is all about living life, and life is for living. So that's all I'm trying to do through my day-to-day activities and progressions to move forward. This is literally just a stepping stone for me, but it's one that's putting me exactly where I need to be. If you've got this far in the video, I encourage you to follow along as I share the highs, the lows, and everything in between. I want to thank you as always, guys, for watching. I appreciate your time. And until then, I'll see you on the next one.